Peace. It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nalo Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be talking about the spiritual significance of minimalism as well as maximalism. So, let's get into it. Now, it is Gemini season, so once again, shout out to all my twins. We got all this energy going through Gemini. And, you know, Gemini is a sign of duality, is a sign of being able to perceive all sides, okay, and then gain understanding through that. So I was asked on a previous video where we talked about, you know, the spiritual significance of your hair and material values and spiritual values, all of that. And, you know, someone asked me to discuss the significance of minimalism and maximalism, which ties in excellent to this. And the beauty is, I've been telling people, like, I use astrology as my base to explain a lot of things. So I really look forward to providing this perspective, because this perspective is very Gemini and Mercurian, right? Why? Because at the heart of it, minimalism and maximalism are two sides of the same coin. In essence, minimalism is the idea that you don't need a lot of material things in order to be happy. In fact, the less you have, the more, not like actual abundance, but you could say peace or peace of mind, less stress. Okay, so that's one perception. Then there's maximalism, which is the opposite, which is like, no, like kind of like, these are the fruits of my labor, and I'm going to enjoy the more the merrier. And that, but I'm not just having things for the sake of having them. I'm having them to reflect a particular type of aesthetic. Okay. All in all, it's perception, and that perception is going to affect how they experience reality. And whether you're a minimalist or a maximalist, you're dealing with a particular type of energy. And like I always tell people, intent is at the heart of everything. So what is your intent behind having less? What do you want? What do you hope to gain from having less? On the other side, what do you hope to gain from having or displaying more? What is it doing for you? And ultimately, it's doing different things for each individual. Now, I want to kind of like go into why I like both, and then try to wrap some astrology into this. So let me start with the astrology. So astrology is many things, but one of the things it is our programming. It is our programming. It's to know thyself, is who we are. So I'm born on this day with this particular energetic alignment. I'm inclined towards these types of expressions. We look at a person's moon. We look at their Venus. What brings them security, emotional fulfillment? What do they love? Right? Now, within that, what we could go to aspects, right? So let's go and say someone has Venus square Neptune, and one of these is in the ascendant, right? So too much Venus or lack of boundaries creates makes them off balance. So in one sense, when it comes to maybe more, it isn't as beneficial for them to have more, right? More indicates an imbalance. But at the same time, remember, astrology is very, very subjective, and I want you all to, it's you. So I can't force you to see things how I see it, or my truth is not your truth. And if you can accept that, oh my God, you're one step closer to unity and just, you know, that oneness. That's where we want to get anyway. So then going with the same example, one may have this Venus square Neptune in the second with like maybe like the second and the fifth, and it just feels like they can't experience material comfort. A lot of losses, maybe even grew up in poverty. My point in all of this is that in understanding why the individual is how they are, you have to take into account the chart, because that's what it's a map of that. So, needless to say, that brings us to the next point, that we're all on different evolutionary journeys here. So, what I may have lived incarnations where I achieved this material abundance, and it's now time for me to transcend that, where another soul, they need to build that foundation. They need to experience it. So that's the Gemini part of it, man. Like, so it obviously we know it ain't right or wrong. Now the spiritual significance is that I just said is going to add to, like, what is the mission? What does soul want to experience? Okay. So now I want to kind of highlight what I deem some benefits of both, right? Let's start with minimalism. So minimalism is it's so necessary these days in all fronts, right? The idea of less is more. And I want you to really not think of this just solely in a consumer standpoint. Now, I want you to think about both of these as in the terms of, particularly in this day and age, like, let's use social media for an example, okay? And YouTube in specific. Now, we can see both sides of a minimalist approach towards YouTube and a maximalist approach towards YouTube. And I want to relate this towards, like, let's say inner and outer, because this platform is very vast. Is a multitude of different things that you can choose to learn about and take in with on YouTube, right? So let's say the minimalist comes on YouTube and says, I'm strictly going to use this platform for inner guidance, okay? And from that inner guidance, I'm going to be able to focus more, or pardon me, I'm saying it wrong. Like, so just using YouTube solely for one application. So you would think, like, of a person, think of a person who literally in their YouTube subscriptions is only towards astrologers, tarot card readers, whatever, which, for all of you is not exactly like that, but you get my idea, right? Say a person literally, so YouTube in there, at minimum, this is a platform in which I can find spiritual guidance, right? And that's all I'm using it for. Now, what I want you to understand here is, remember, we're thinking in the sense of where attention goes, energy flows. So if a person is solely minimizing where their attention goes in the sense of a subject or how they're using a thing, they're able to get more out of it, okay? And like I said, it goes down to the individual, because maybe that individual does better when not multitasking or, divvying up what they're concentrating on, okay? So think about it in that sense. Think about of working from within on a minimalist standpoint, right? And then from that work within, they're going to bloom forth. They can bloom forth externally, but remember, intent. What is the intent behind this minimalist approach? Okay. Now, let's say someone is using YouTube with a maximalist state of mind, where, wow, there's so many different things that I can get out of YouTube. I can get spiritual insight, entertainment, beauty, whatever. Okay. And the individual literally has, in their subscription thing, playlists, like categorized by the things I just said. Now, what's going to happen here is when you see this person on all different facets, they are going to be representative of the things that they've consumed. So if they're really into, beauty and all of that, they're going to have, it's going to reflect some type of way. Now, when you talk to them, they may know a little bit about this, a little bit, about that. Now, now I'm not here really to disagree with any of them, but I would say the minimalists will or probably perceiving it as that, like, you're losing sight of, the inner or whatever, and the maximalist is like, I'm just enjoying everything. So they're opposing one another. And it literally is a standpoint of how you want to express or experience things. So I'm gonna reiterate to you, a minimalist may, because of their programming, have a relationship with pleasure where they can't maximize, because if they maximize, they feel off, right? They're depressed. They're, they suffer from addiction. They can't maximize. It's in their best interest. They get more out of minimizing. Then the maximalist gets more out of doing that. And at its core, y'all, it leads back to forces. We can look at this in the terms of approach, a feminine approach to a masculine approach, right? It all goes back to all the same basic principles. So here, I guess really with this video, what I want to highlight here is that it's really about what's for you. And now I'll give personal examples. I think I'm naturally a minimalist who, as I'm evolving into, adulthood and further, it's literally walking the middle path. So I'm using an example of my natural minimalist ideology. So I think, at least where I grew up, and others can vouch, your early 20s is a time where you do a number of things, right? You party, you travel, you get piercings and tattoos, okay? Now, everyone's gonna have a different journey. So I noticed that in my early 20s, my friends were going through a phase of getting a lot of tattoos, okay? And I was like, okay, yeah, I was like, okay. I didn't have a burning desire to have one, but I'm like, okay, it's cool. Now, this is minimalist thinking. This is minimalist thinking. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go inquire about getting a tattoo. I knew what I wanted. I went to inquire about it. I got the price. And let's say the price was about $400. The minimalist thinks to himself, wow, that's $400 for one item, right? Which is a tattoo. It's an item. It's a permanent one, but that's the price for it. But a minimalist thinks, man, what other experiences can this $400 produce? And in my case, I traveled. And so I was like, man, that's a round trip ticket somewhere that I've never been. And I feel like now this is where it comes back to value. What do you value more? So it's not a matter of what's right or wrong. It's like, what experience do you value? Do I value the permanent tattoo in this moment, or do I value the experience of going somewhere I've never been and making memories, da-da-da-da? So I'm telling you, a lot throughout my 20s, I did that. Every time I thought about getting a tattoo, I said, I think I'd rather go on a trip. Okay, now it's minimalist thinking. Now, obviously, now I'm gonna show you something within the maximalist thinking here in regards to tattoos. Now, I know from being around people with lots of tattoos, the first one comes of significance. Someone dies, a child is born, some memory that I'm recording. Now, going back to it, you can't escape it. Intent. I've told you, intent is at the root of everything. So a person first gets there's a root at that intent. So what I've seen is that if it's a symbolic one, right, we're keeping a memory of someone or something like that, the individual, that sets the course of how they go about their tattoos. if the individual, let's say, is literally getting them for superficial reasons, how they go about getting the other tattoos will be tied towards that, which is all energy at the end of the day. All right. And of course, you know, I know some of you know there's a spiritual significance of tattoos and things like that. But at minimum, everything is intent. So Maximalist says, I like this. I want to have a lot of tattoos as, now this is one, as an extension or a symbolic representation of my body, you know what I'm saying, of experiences that I've had. So this is driving me towards the expression of that. I don't just have this tattoo here of this thing because I think that looks cute. There's meaning behind it. And just in the way I think and what I know, that energy is going to stick with the individual, the energy behind that. So it's everything you do. So even so with the Maximalist within home, who may, you know, be damn near a hoarder, you want to assess their intent behind why they're doing, you know, what they're doing. Speaking of hoarding, so hoarding would obviously be low vibrational because somewhere the intent is out of lack and scarcity, you know. So it's a lot here. It's a lot here. I can keep going with this, but I'm going to end it here so y'all can digest this. But definitely chime in. Let me know what you think about this. Like I said, y'all, I love talking about stuff like this. I love talking about stuff like this. And I look forward to, I got some stuff in the works. And yeah, and being able to mesh it all with astrology too is a beautiful thing. So feel free to chime in. Let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, you can do so now. Until next time, peace.